Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. Sometimes the chair is kind of here as an option. Today, what we're doing is very much going to involve a chair. So you will want to have a chair that has a solid enough base that if you put your hands on it and actually sort of support some of your weight on it, it doesn't feel wobbly or like it's not really a solid support. So you want to try to find a chair that's got a good, solid, and accessible base on it. I'm standing on a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, a carpeted area, not too slick, is going to be great. I do have a couple of yoga blocks. You can use thick books. And it's always great to have a folded blanket, or your beach towel would be great, maybe the throw blanket from your couch. I will be adjusting myself so that you can see me. Sometimes I'm kind of off my mat. If you adjust the short edge of your mat watching me, I think that's going to be your best bet to be able to see everything without having to turn your head or leave the pose quite so much. And if you need to step away from the pose, take a look, and then come back to it, that's not against the rules. Let's start as we often do. Standing in our bedrock pose of mountain pose, or Tadasana as it's called. Feet hip distance. Turn your palms away from one another. Little bend in your knees so we're not locked into the knees. Chin parallel to the ground. You can think of gazing at the bright horizon as we're here. And as you land here in your mountain and in your stance, feeling your connection to the earth and an extension of the crown of your head to the sky. Fill the expanse of your mountain with your breath. Try to bring the breath in and out through your nose. We'd like for that to be the case, if you can, from now until the end of the practice. Let your inhales be full, maybe even a little pause at the top. And your exhales be grounding and calming with a little pause perhaps at the bottom. This is the foundation of our practice. Mountain is the bedrock pose, and our breath is the ultimate foundation of all of it, body and mind. Now, take your arms out in front of you with your palms facing up, and keep your elbows in towards your ribs. Now, not squishing your ribs, but just feel them against your body. Hold on as if you were holding on to a giant rubber band or even to a resistance band. Add a little more bend to your knees. And then just pull your pretend resistance band apart, but keep your elbows where they are. And then come back to your palms facing the sky and your arms out in front of you. So just keep those elbows in towards you as you pull the pretend band apart and bring it back together. If you have a different tempo than mine, it's fine. But what I'd like us to keep is elbows in. And we're letting this be an action at the shoulder joint, not elbows moving around, right? So just notice that. Out to the side with your hands, elbows stay in. And then arms out in front of you. We'll do that one more time. This is going to be something we come back to quite a bit, so I want us to spend a little time with it. And then let go of your pretend resistance band and take your arms out to the side. And now inhale, V shape overhead, and exhale, float the arms alongside you. Inhale, V shape overhead, exhale, arms along your side. One more time, inhale, V shape overhead, and exhale, arms along your side. We'll add a chair. Bend your knees. V shape overhead with a deep bend in your knees. And then exhale. Float the arms alongside you. Twice more like that. Bend your knees. Inhale, V shape. And exhale. Arms along your side. One more time. V shape. Inhale. And then float the arms along your side. This time legs stay a little bit straighter, V shape, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips for our sun salutation, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, it feels delish. And then exhale, a little bit more hinge into the hips. Inhale, V shape overhead, and then float your arms along your side. Add chair to that, bend your knees. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hands to your thighs, your knees are a little bit deeper with a bend, and then inhale, more length into your spine. Exhale, a little bit more hinge at the hip, knees are deeply bent, and then chair pose, V shape. And stand and float your arms along your side. One more time, V shape. Inhale, chair pose, hands to thighs. Inhale, heart extends. Exhale, hinge at your hips, keep your knees bent if you can into a chair pose, and now stay for a moment. I'm sorry about this. Breathe though. There's a victory sign overhead and a victory that you can feel in your body and mind as we breathe here for 3. You're doing a great job. 2 more. Slowly straighten your legs and float your arms alongside you, maybe a little hint of activity. Great. Adding on and using our chair. So you may want to move your chair within reach of the front edge of your mat or the front edge of your space, and then turn to face it with your feet hip distance. Inhale your chair pose, V shape overhead. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale some length into your spine. I'd like you to keep this length as you place your hands onto the chair base. Now, really start to think about pressing into your hands. We're still not letting the elbows bend out to the side. So remember our pretend resistance band. Already we have a little hint of that. Keep your hands on the base of your chair. Just step your feet back so you start to feel more sensation of weight in your arms. Nobody's going to drop their head lower than their hips. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. But press with a little oomph into your arms. Now, a lift of the hips a little bit. So this is puppy dog, which is kind of like a down dog that we're doing. Your heels are stamping. Everybody's stance is going to be a little bit different. And that's the beauty of yoga, is that we're all kind of doing the same thing, and not one of us will have the same experience of it. So let there be a hug of your arms towards the center, so we're not letting it collapse into the shoulders. And then just walk your feet back to that position where they were at the very beginning. Take your hands back onto your thighs and bend your knees for me a bit. Inhale, lengthen to your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at the hip a bit. Chair pose, V shape overhead. And then stand and float your arms along your side and pause. Great, we'll do another one like that. Bend your knees, chair pose, V shape. Hands to your thighs, traction so you get so much length in your spine. Then transition that length in your spine with your hands on the base of your chair. Keep the oomph in your arms. Start to walk back. Your legs will start to straighten out a little bit here in your puppy dog, and then find where the porridge is just right. You've got quite a bit of energy and a little bit of weight in your arms. You're pressing your hands, nothing slippery or slick. Your low belly is lifting. 2 moments here in our puppy dog. And then begin to walk your feet hip distance. Bend your knees, hands to thighs. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, increase the hinge at the hip. And then V shape overhead in our chair pose. Stand and float your arms along your side. Adding on a little bit more. Bend your knees for a chair, V shape overhead. Hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Keep this length and place your hands onto your chair. Step it back into your puppy dog. Now this is where we have to really remember what we did with the resistance band, yeah? This is not elbows bending out to the side. This is elbows bending just a little bit towards the ground, as if we were doing what we did with our resistance band, and then straighten the arms out. And you're going to feel like it's a tiny suggestion of a push-up, right? Bend your elbows, elbows face down, not out, shoulders out of the ears, low belly lifting. Straighten your arms out. One more time like that. Bend your elbows just a few inches, not a whole big deep bend. Straighten your arms out, walk your feet hip distance. Bend your knees and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, V shape, and then stand it up. So we're moving in towards what's called a chaturanga in yoga speak. It's a yoga push-up. Bend your knees for chair. V shape overhead, hands to thighs. Inhale, lengthening your heart, and then place your hands on your chair base and step back to your puppy dog, our variation of a down dog, kind of. And then bend your elbows, elbows face down, not out. Low belly is lifting. Straighten your arms. If that's enough, just stay here, or bend your elbows again, elbows face down. And then slowly straighten the arms out. One more time. Elbows bend, facing down. Straighten your arms. Step your feet hip distance. Bend your knees, chair, hands to thighs. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, V shape, arms to the sky. And then pause into your mountain. Great. Some of you are going to use your blocks for the next bit. Take your blocks and position them to the sides of your mat where you can still be located in between them and you're not going to trip. So part of the mindfulness of this practice is making sure our space is safe and intentional. So feet hip distance, chair pose, facing the base of your chair, thumbs to the sky. You can use your chair for the whole thing if you want to. I'll show you how. Hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen to your spine. Place your hands onto the base of your chair for all of us, even if you're using blocks for some parts of this. Step back into your puppy dog and feel your arms start to bear a little bit of weight. Bend your elbows, elbows face down. Straighten your arms. And then step your right foot forward. Scoot your left foot back. So we're in a lunge, and right now you've got your hands on the base of your chair. They can stay there the whole time. You might take your hands onto your blocks, but all of us are going to steer right hip back and left hip forward. 2 moments here. Great. Place your hands on the base of your chair. Step your left foot hip distance from your right, and then step back into your puppy dog from here. So step back until you feel a little bit more oomph in the arms. Bend your elbows, elbows face the ground, not out. Straighten your arms. Step your left foot forward, scoot your right heel back. So it's almost like we're stepping from a down dog into a lunge a little bit. Keep your hands on your chair just for a moment. Feel length through your spine. Then if you want to transfer your hands to your blocks, that's fine, but left hip back and right hip forward. Breath is steady. 2 moments here in our lunge. And then hands onto the base of the chair. Step feet hip distance. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, full. Bend your knees and place your hands on your thighs. Chair pose, arms out to the side, and then stand it up and be in your mountain. Great. We'll add something to that. Bend your knees, chair pose. Hands to thighs. Inhale, heart forward. Hands to your chair, step back to your puppy dog stance. In your puppy dog stance, bend your elbows so that they face down. Lots of lift to the low belly. Straighten your arms out. Step your right foot forward. Scoot your left foot back. Turn it on its side flat. And then hands can stay on the base of your chair for a pyramid pose. So straight legs, not locked out straight legs, but straight legs compared to our lunge. If you take your hands onto your blocks, all of us are keeping our head above our hips. 2 moments here in our pyramid. Hands to the base of your chair, spin on your back toes, and then step your left foot hip distance from your right. Step back into our puppy dog. In puppy dog, bend your elbows, elbows face down, not out. Low belly is lifting, and then straighten your arms out. Step your left foot forward, pyramid pose. So scoot the right foot back, give yourself some sideways space. So maybe You step that right foot over to the right a little bit, your left foot over to the left a little bit. Hands can remain on the base of your chair. If you're transferring them to your blocks, that's fine. Just keep your head high, your spine long, your breath steady. 2 more moments. And then hands to the base of your chair, spin on your back toes. Bend your front knee a little so that we can step hip distance. Right foot hip distance from left. Now this time step back into our puppy dog again. One more sneak attack of the puppy dog and the yoga push-up before we leave our standing position. Now bend your elbows so your elbows face down. If this is too long a stay, you can straighten your arms. We're going to see if we can stay here for 3. Elbows face down, not out. Nobody's head is lower than their hips. No shoulders and ears. 2 more. Straighten your arms out. So good. Step so that you're close enough to your chair that you can use that to come down onto the ground. You can use your chair or your blocks. I'm going to move my chair so that you can see me and move my blocks so that they're not in the way. Now you may want to have your folded blanket underneath your knees because we're coming to our hands and knees, and I think sometimes that's the kindest way to be. So on your hands and knees, there's a couple things that we want to be really certain of. You don't want your hands so close to you that your shoulders are too far forward and that's a lot on your wrists. You don't want your hands so far forward that you can't maneuver anything without shoulders into your ears and elbows out to the side. Think about trying to find what we found on our chair with our puppy dog, but also what we found with our pretend resistance band. So we've got shoulders over the wrists, and if we were ever to want to, we would be able to bend our elbows just a little and they'd go down, not out to the side, right? So if ever we wanted to do that, this position would make that possible. We're not bending our elbows right now. We're going to step the right foot back like you're flirting with a plank. And you'll keep shoulders over wrists and breath steady and low belly lifting the whole time. Great. And then place your right knee down. Flirt now with your left leg, stepping back into a plank. And then we just want to be careful we're not collapsed here, right? Shoulders over wrists, low belly lifting, breath steady. Your arms might be feeling a little bit of what we've been up to. That's not a bad thing, it's okay. Now, left knee onto your mat, come up and then just turn your wrists in a circle one direction and another direction, the other direction. And then return to hands and knees. Nerd out quite a bit with your hands as if they were pressing into some clay or mud. So really use the muscles in your hands and feel shoulders over wrists. Press the ground away enough that you're not a caved in shoulder blade scenario. You feel that you've got that filled out shoulder blades on the back. And then step your right foot back like you're flirting with a plank. And that is plenty of flirtation. You don't need to go any further than that. It could be for some of you that you step your left foot back and then it's plank here too. Just for a moment, shoulders over wrists, hands in the mud, low belly lifting. And then if you lifted the left knee, put your left knee down and your right knee down. Maybe come and kneel and do a little of this, if it's helpful. It's a lot on our wrists, I know. They'll get stronger over time. Set it up, shoulders over wrists, hands and knees, all the intelligence that we found. Flirt with a plank with your left foot. That's plenty. Make sure that there's not any canyon between the shoulder blades, especially if you step your right foot now into a plank. 2 moments, hands in the mud for all of us, whether it's a flirtation or the full plank. And then both knees onto your probably folded blanket, but down onto the ground, and we'll circle wrists. Whew. We are well armed, wouldn't you say? Plenty of work with our arms. Now, move your folded blanket off to the side so that you can come on to your belly. So onto your belly. and into a Sphinx pose for a moment. We're off of our arms just for a sec. Traction your elbows towards you. Let your chin stay parallel to the ground. This is sort of like an upward facing dog or a cobra pose in what's called a vinyasa, which is a dance in a vinyasa style of yoga class. And we're kind of moving around towards those things in this practice today a bit. Lower down, make a pillow with your hands, bend your knees, and let your legs just windshield wiper back and forth a little bit, side to side. Most of us, I think, will just stay with that Sphinx pose, but some of us will situate the hands next to our ribs with the elbows in. Remember our pretend resistance band, so not elbows out to the side, elbows as if we were still playing with a resistance band, and then go forward and up gently with your chest. Keep your chin parallel to the ground. That can be the Sphinx pose we were all doing, or hands next to your ribs. Nobody's winging their elbows out, right? Last couple moments. And then gently release. Come through hands and knees, and then sit back towards a child's pose. And not all of us are comfortable in child's pose. So you don't have to sit too far back if knee flexion, which is a fancy way of saying bending your knees a lot, doesn't feel good. But turn your palms to the sky so your wrists do get that break. And then come to hands and knees. You can use your padding again underneath your knees if it's helpful. It's a little bit different. So hands and knees are right underneath our hips. Now I'm going to have you keep your shoulders over your wrists and then just walk your knees back about 3 inches, but lift your low belly. So we're not going to stick the butt to the sky, and it's also definitely not collapsing, right? So really think of yourself as shoulders over the wrists, low belly lifting. It's a lot like what we did on our chair. And then just bend your elbows a little bit here, just 3 inches or so. Keep the whole hand in the mud and straighten your arms. If that was enough, that is all you need to do. You can also be in child's pose here. Maybe a couple more times. Bend your elbows. They don't bend out to the side. There's no collapse. It's elbows towards the back of your mat, and then straighten your arms, and we'll do that one more time. Bend your elbows a little bit, maybe. Straighten your arms, and then sit back into your child's pose, however that serves you, palms to the sky. You can also make fists and open your hands if your wrists are feeling it a lot. Skip any of the parts that you need to. I'm just taking you closer and closer to a vinyasa, just in case that's ever of interest as we continue to practice together. And then one more time, hands and knees, and then what's called a modified plank. So just step your knees back with your toes curled under, lift your low belly like crazy so it's not a sag at the hips, it's not too much of a lift of your hips. You're kind of thinking that you'd like to be a plank with your shoulders over your wrists, and then just try this on for size. Just give it a shot maybe. Nobody's elbows are going to flare out to the side. Nobody's hips are going to collapse to the ground. But we'll start to bend our elbows so that they brush against our ribs, and we go all the way down onto our belly. And then either Sphinx pose, uncurl your toes, Sphinx pose, or that cobra. And lower down, come through all fours, head back into your child's pose. Look at that. Look at that little dance we're up to. We'll do it a couple more times. If that was too much or enough for you, you can stay here in child's pose. If not, hands and knees, shoulders over wrists. Curl your toes under. Just give yourself a little bit more distance between the hands and the feet. Look a little bit forward. Make sure no elbows out to the side, no collapse. Low belly lifts. Lower all the way down onto your belly, elbows in, and then uncurl your toes for either a low cobra or a Sphinx pose. And then head back through all fours and into child's pose. Amazing. Option to do one more round of that. Come onto all fours. Step back just a couple of inches with your knees. Curl your toes under. Shoulders are over your wrists. Low belly lifts. Imagine your resistance band as your elbows brush against your ribs all the way onto your belly. Uncurl your toes for cobra, low cobra or Sphinx. And then sit back on your heels. Come through all fours. child's pose. And then we'll lie down on our back. So you could even do one more. You could sneak another elbows in, lowering down, and then roll over on your back for reclining pigeon. So with your knees bent, cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh, and you can stay like this. You could put a block underneath your left foot, if that's helpful to the stretch. Some of you can reach and hold on to your left hamstring or even interlace around your left shin. And we'll stay here for a few moments. If it feels good to put the folded blanket underneath your head now, or even one of your blocks or books underneath your head now, you can do that. This is where we quiet down, get a little more still. Let your tongue relax in your mouth. Feel free to close your eyes. Last couple moments here. Now unlace if that's what's going on. All of us, both feet on your mat, in between sides for a pause. And then you'll take your left ankle on top of your right thigh, reach through the space and hold the hamstring if that works for you, or interlace around the shin. Placing the block underneath your right foot now might be the perfect fit. And then we get still and we let the sensations that you're bumping up against become a part of the meditation. So really there are no distractions. It's all part of the meditation soup. Unclench your jaw. Maybe let your eyes close. Pay attention on your way out of this side. Unlace, place both feet on your mat. Shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. You can take the block out from underneath your head unless you just love it. And then let your knees fall in on each other. Maybe a careful, gentle lift of your hips to create space for our Shavasana final meditation. You can keep your knees bent or straighten your legs out and close or cover your eyes. This is where the practice settles into every cell and every corner. Let yourself let go. Welcome to stay here in your final Shavasana meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready to start to find your way back, move your fingers and toes. Maybe even a gentle stretch in opposite directions, and then gather your knees into your chest. Roll carefully to either side. Use the strength of your arms so your head can be the last thing to come up, and strength of your arms today has a whole other meaning, doesn't it? As you sit, feel yourself to be well armed for the rest of the day. And as we continue to practice together, day after day. I'm Andrea. I thank you so much for being here with me. And I look forward to us practicing some yoga together again soon.